So when I asked you to write down slope-intercept form, did you write y equals mx plus b? Raise your hand if you did. Okay, cool. Then a bunch of you are on track. Now here's the next one you have to know. Y minus, and then it's really long. It's way longer than that other one. Do you remember that form? If you don't know this one yet, that was the whole point of yesterday. Gotta write stuff down to improve the probability you'll remember it. So I know some of you've got this. Y minus y1 m x minus x1. Raise your hand if you knew that one. It's going to be less kids this time. Okay, that's about half. And that's understandable, but you got to know that one. Like, that's the one you're going to use from now through high school, the rest of high school. Math. You got to know this equation. So then if I put numbers in it, like y minus 3, everybody write this one, equals 4x plus 2, you've got to know where the slope was in that. I'm starting with the easy stuff. Where is the slope on this one? Yep, it's the 4. That's the slope. What's this? Well, the really, really bad answer is 3 comma 2 is your point. No, no, no. It does involve a 3 and it does involve a 2. But the point is not 3 comma 2. Would you please write down what the point is? Careful. It involves a 3, it involves a 2, but that was wrong, and it's not just backwards. That point is something very simple you could share with the kid next to you. And if you know it, awesome. If you don't, then just tell them, I don't know how to do it, and they can show you maybe all you got to do is this. All right? Show the person next to you what you think it is. Do this. You haven't written this down yet? Written what down? That. So, Remington, what's the point? What comma what? Okay, you're close. It involves a 3, but it's positive 3. Why? Because that, you do the opposite of what you would think. It's not negative 3, it's positive 3. And it's not 2. It's negative 2. And it's not in that order either. Because, why? Because the y values are here. And that's the y value. So that should go at the end. You want to give it another try then?
Negative 2 comma 3.
All right. Negative 2 comma 3. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. Now, that was critical. And I know less than half of you are totally on top of this. But that's why we're reviewing today. Here's a slope. Here's a point. You should be able to write me an equation with that slope and that point. Typical test question. This unit involves more memorizing than ever before. You've got to know that big log. I'm going to count up how many things you have to know. Y is 1 minus y sub 1. If you don't have the sub 1, it's not even right. So y minus y sub 1 is 4 things so far. Equals m parentheses x minus x sub 1 and parentheses. It's 12 things in a row. It's complicated. It is not near as bad as the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula has 16 parts to it. This one has 12 individual characters you have to write in a row perfectly. So memorize it. You got to have this down. Then the 2 goes in the x spot, which is there. It's very tempting to go over and put it in the first spot, which would have been here. But that's where this 4 goes. And then the slope goes here. And you should have written y minus, and then you put an empty spot where you drop in the y value, which is 4. And you don't have to have that parentheses later, but M, oh wait, I know M. M is a half. Times x minus the x value is 2. And there it is. That parentheses just kind of looks annoying, so I'm going to get rid of it. It's just a negative 4. There's nothing. The reason you can get rid of parentheses sometimes is if there's nothing to do in them and you're not multiplying something in, like you're not distributing it, then you can just get rid of it. Okay, so there's your equation. But imagine a world where they said, leave your answer in slope-intercept form. Do you get this is point slope? Slope-intercept is that other form that looks like this. Y equals 1/2 x plus 7 or something like that. But the answer isn't going to be 7. It will be 1/2 x because, see, look, distributing. But it won't be plus 7. Go ahead, solve for y like that. Algebra 2 involves lots of solving. Okay. Y minus 4 equals 1/2 x, and then the 1/2 gets timesed by the negative 2. Half of 2 is 1, but I got to make it negative, minus 1. If nothing else, your calculator could have gone 0.5 times negative 2, and you would have got negative 1. Right there. So what's wrong with this? Can't I just leave it like that? Nope. What do I do? Say it if you know it. Plus 4. Final answer, y equals 1/2 x, and negative 1 plus 4 is plus 3. That's intense algebra. Be honest. Who had that before I said it? All right, about half of you. A little more now. Okay. That's going to be the difference on this test, is the kids that can do algebra and the kids that can't do algebra. That's just algebra. That's not even algebra 2. That's just algebra. The multiplying it out part, this multiplying, this distributing, that's just algebra. Memorizing this, that's algebra 2. The red equation, that is algebra 2. Okay. So, what if I gave you an equation and I said y equals 3/4 x? Didn't I just tell you the slope? Yeah, I did. I told you the slope and I told you the y-intercept. I was shocked how many kids couldn't tell me what point that was. They were like, 8. It's not a point. What is the y-intercept? Make it a point. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to share that point with the kid next to you. If you know there's an 8 in it, well, duh, there's an 8 in it. But you have to have a comma, and you have to know where to put the 8 and what the other thing is. And no, it's not 3/4. All right, so the y-intercept here had an 8 in it, and the 8 is the y, so it goes there. But then you need a 0. Did you know that? Did you know it was 0,8? That's really important, because when they ask what is the point that's in this problem, you can't say 8, because 8 isn't a point. You can say 0,8. All right. Here's another one. What I could ask you about the blue problem would be, what is parallel to that? Is this black equation parallel to it? Yes or no? It is, because the slopes are equal. The slopes are the same. Then these are parallel. You know, get parallel lines are like train tracks. They go forever and they never touch. So if they both have a slope that's exactly the same, they're going to be like running right next to each other and never touching. This one has a y-intercept of 8. This one has a y-intercept of 7. So if it's a y-intercept of 7, it's 0,7. All right. Now, if I needed it to be perpendicular, I think you know it wouldn't be 3/4 anymore. Would you please write the equation so that it's perpendicular to the blue equation? Write an equation so it's perpendicular to the blue equation. Now, some people are just gonna flip it over, and that's a good guess. It's not exactly right. Who guessed -4/3? Raise your hand if you felt like you had that. Good. That's what you do. It's flipped and it's opposite. It's like both kinds of flipping. Flipping the sign and flipping the number over. Okay? So these two, when you make perpendicular lines, that means if I graphed them, they would cross so that they make right angles. All right. So here's another scenario that I could give you on the test. I want an equation of a line that goes through the point 2, 8. Do you have any things in your memory banks that are like, oh, they're giving me a point. Maybe I should use this equation. It goes through 2, 8, and it's parallel to this. Make me an equation that goes through 2, 8 and is parallel to the blue one. That is about as tricky as they get. It's not that hard. I just gave you the slope in a weird way. I gave you the slope. And I gave you a point. You should know point and slope. Point slope. Y minus, what's the next thing? Somebody fill it in. What's next? Y minus what?
8.
Yes, in this case it would be 8, but let's do the general form for the kids that don't really know it. Y minus Y1 equals times minus X1. Good. All right. So then you stick these numbers in the right spots and you'll have your answer. Everybody do that, please. You don't have to solve for y at the end. We're going to leave it in, this is called point slope form. You got a point? You got a slope? Make your answer. And then in a moment, I'm going to ask you to compare with the kid sitting next to you. Actually, try it. Give it a shot. You write that equation out. Oh, cell phone. Aha. Put that, go, just put it in your backpack. Don't give me any lame excuses like I was using you as a calculator. The worst excuse ever. All right. You know you can use your iPad's calculator. You really need the calculator. Okay, please talk to that kid next to you if you're lost. Help, ask for help. You good? This wall seems to be a power wall. This way. All right. Here's what you should have been thinking. This is where the point goes. And the point was 2 for x. Oh, that goes down here. 8 for y. That goes here. And it's parallel, so the slope must be the same as that. So 3/4 goes there. And then if you clean it up, you have y minus 8 equals 3/4 x minus 2. That is in point slope form. There's really only two forms we've been talking about this whole time. Point slope, which is this one, and if I made you solve this thing for y, this would be a pain in the butt, not because 3/4 x, everybody can do that, but 3/4 times 2 would get a lot of people. But with a calculator, do you get that's really just, who knows the decimal for 3/4? 0.75. You just do 0.75 times -2. It wouldn't be that bad. All right? But then your answer of that is a decimal, which is kind of a pain. All right? So I'm not going to multiply this one out. But this is the last melon. The last thing that I'm kind of nervous about for some kids. Can you solve that for y? It involves distributing. It involves knowing that to get slope intercept, you have to solve it for y. Dessa, did you get this distributed yet?
No.
Okay, I'll help you. 2 times the x, 2x. 2 times the negative 2, what's that? We're distributing this, and so, see this 2 times the negative 2?
14.
2 times 2?
Oh, wait, I already did that part.
Negative 4. There you go. Okay. Now we're going to add 10 to both sides, and I'll take over from there. These cancel. Y equals 2x and negative 4 and positive 10. See, I added 10 to both sides. Makes positive 6. The common wrong answer is 14 or negative 14. But one of these is negative and one of them is positive. So there's your final answer. Y equals 2x plus 6. That's in slope intercept. The top one was in point slope. All right, so last check. Would you please take this one, write it out, please. What form is that in? Point slope. That's point slope. And make it into the other form. What's the other form? Slope intercept, yes, good. Go ahead, make this into slope intercept. All right, so this is 4x minus 12. This was on your last test. And then we're going to add 2 to both sides. Y equals 4x, and that together makes plus 10. Raise your hand if you had 4x plus 10. Okay. Go!
It's negative 10.
It's got a 10, but it's negative. Thank you. Hey, you see, even I make dumb mistakes every now and then. This wasn't like a really incredibly hard problem. I just had negative 12 plus 2 and did 10 in my head quick. I can see how it happened to you too. So, sorry, 4x minus 10. Okay, so do you feel like you get this? That's an entire review of yesterday. Yesterday was probably a little too hard. It had things like, how do you find something perpendicular? And you might be like, perpendicular to what? Well, perpendicular to this. So you look at the slope. What would perpendicular to that mean again? Opposite, so negative 4? Close. Negative 1/4. Yes, this would be perpendicular to it. And it has a different y-intercept. This has a y-intercept of this. This has a different y-intercept. And that y-intercept, you can't just say negative 11 in a parenthesis. You got to say 0 comma negative 11 because this is a y. And so it goes in the y spot. And it's the y-intercept, so x is 0. This involves knowing a lot of stuff. All right. So, that is it for that. Now, there's another part of today, and that is more basic stuff. Because I'm finding that kids still can't solve stuff like this. Prove to me you can. There's a million kinds of equations. Sometimes equations have variables on both sides. Sometimes they have fractions in them. Sometimes there's distributing in them. And try this one, please. So I'll give you a hint. This would be so much easier if it wasn't for that 8. Would you agree if it was just 3x equals 10, you just divide by 3 and you'd be done? All right. So how do we get rid of that 8? Times by 8. That's what you should have started with. If you didn't start with that, you're doing it wrong. Start by timesing by 8, because then life will be easy. Those will cancel. 3x equals, anybody can do 10 times 8, that's 80. And then you can just divide by 3. These have to be just like the back of your hand, like super easy. If you were working with a kid in Spanish and you were trying to teach them how to speak in Spanish, and they struggled with how to say whole lot, high, okay, then you probably would lose your mind if you were trying to teach them really complicated Spanish, if they can't do the really simple stuff. Well, this is supposed to be really simple. So I'm going to give you 10 questions on solving equations. And the reason you might care is because it's Algebra 1, and every single one of them is necessary on the test later this year. Solving equations. Not everything is as easy as 2x plus 1 equals 10. That should be like a piece of cake, but sometimes it's 2x plus 10 equals 10x. And then what do you do? What would you do first? Subtract just 2? 2x, you are correct.
Attention all occupants, thank you for your...
Okay, so we subtract 2x from both sides. These are gone. 1 equals negative. Wait, what is this? 10x minus 2x. That's not negative. What is it? 8x. And then you divide by 8. Why am I not dividing by 1? Because I want the 8 to cancel. X is alone. Your whole goal is to get the x alone. All right, so the answer would be 1 over 8. So, solving is a big deal. I have 10 simple solving. Algebra 1 only. Nothing complicated. That's one of your quizzes for today. It's 10 simple solvings. You should get at least 8 out of 10. I mean, you saw me make a mistake earlier. I understand you're going to make a mistake on 1 or 2 of them, but you should be able to solve. The other one is 6 questions that are exactly like yesterday's. So this is all review stuff. You should be able to finish both of them in class today, but I'm also realistic. I know you may not finish both, so the one I want you to start with is the one that is a review of yesterday. Its name, and everybody get in there right now. It's Schoology quiz name. It says assigned on October 1st, so it should be pretty easy to tell where it is. And it's in the October 1st folder. And it says assigned on August 1st, or October 1st. It's called Two Forms of a Line. Jason's already there, Damien's already there, Claire's already there, Jameson's there, Finn is there, Lila and Claire are there, James Lynn is there. Now, there's a few people that aren't there. Please get there now. Still waiting. I'm not going to say for who, but they're still waiting for 8 kids. You're finding the one whose title is Two Forms of a Line. Jack Johnson, we're still waiting for you.
Out in there.
We'll refresh it. You must have done it just when I said Jimmy. Sam, still waiting for you. And Nathan is gone today, so that makes sense. All right, good. Now, that one's got literally, I thought it was 6 questions, I think it's actually 7 questions. So those 7 questions, get those done, and then if you have help needs, like I don't get number 4, please come up and ask, and then go do the other quiz. I want to warn you that the top 20, or the basic 20, which I assigned a couple days ago and was due this morning, that one and this other algebra one I just assigned today, those are going to be top topics of conversation at conferences. So the one I just assigned you, do really well on it, because I'm going to be talking at conferences, and if it's like, your kid only knew 1 out of 6, like they're struggling right now, you need to get them extra help. That's what the conversation will be like at conferences. So try, do your best on this, but these are really important. These are way more than just a normal homework assignment, especially the one on solving equations. All right. Please take this really seriously and get help if you need it. All right, that's all I got for you for today.